Looking for a quick sewing project? Or maybe you're new to quilting and want a simple venture where you can work on your cutting and sewing skills along with learning how to tie a quilt. In this video, I'll show you how to put together what I call a summer quilt. A summer quilt is a lightweight quilt that just has a top and a back. There's no batting in between here, so you don't have to worry about quilting all these layers together when you finish the top. You can make it any size, from a small baby blanket to a throw to a larger quilt that can cover a bed, but I suggest starting small. You can also add a little patchwork or fabric panel or binding if you like. It's a great venue for trying out new patterns, panels, or color combos. To make a simple summer quilt, take 1 yard of 100% cotton fabric for the top and 1 yard for the back. I cut my fabric down to 36-inch squares, but it's okay to use the entire yard. You'll save a step. I rounded the corners using this plate as a guide. I'll put right sides together, and then I'll pin all the way around. And after pinning, I'll take it to the sewing machine and I'll sew 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, almost all the way around. I'll leave an opening, let's say maybe about this big on the side, so I can turn this inside out. After turning this inside out, I press the edges. Now here's the opening that I used to turn it inside out. I pressed under the seam allowance. Now I could stitch this by hand, but I prefer to catch that seam when I top stitch around the edge. So I sewed 3/8 inch seams and then I top stitched a 1/4 inch seam. I could use this lightweight quilt as is, but I've decided to add some ties to prevent it from shifting when washed. I'm using pearlized cotton for tying, but any embroidery floss or yarn will do. I use safety pins to help prevent the top and back from shifting. I use blue tape to remind me where I'm going to be tying. You can draw a grid system if you like. So here's how I like to tie. I go down all the way through to the back and come up. I'm using a single strand thread, and that's not knotted on the end. I go back down right next to where I went down the first time, and I come up, and now I'm going to scoot over to my next spot. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to go down a little, come right back up. I'm leaving this tail here because I'll use that to tie. I'll go down about the same spot, take a little stitch in there. I don't want to pull it real tight or else it'll bunch up. I move over to the next spot. I want to leave these tails here because I'll come back in later to tie that. When I finish with the last tie, I take my needle off the thread. I come in and I'll cut these threads, and then I'll put one thread over the other, go over, under, tie a knot. I'll do that again, over, under, tie a knot. So here's my next thread. I'm going to cut this in the middle. I go over, under, tie a knot, over and then under. I like to do it 2 times and tie a knot. I go through and tie all of my thread. Then I go back in and clip these threads. Now it's personal preference how long I want to clip them. I could clip them all the way up there if I want that threads hanging like that. I usually like to clip it pretty close because I really don't want to make those threads a part of the design. I kind of don't want them to be showing a lot. I come in, take off my tape, pull out my safety pins, and here's my completed summer quilt. Hope you try making one. I provided some links below to other summer quilt projects. Thanks for visiting learnhowtoquilt.com. Please share with your friends.